Today, we have a special topic and format. It's 4 gurus in 20 minutes, sharing their tips and insights on how they've developed fruitful relationships that stand the test of time in one of the toughest, most competitive areas around, Silicon Valley. That's right. Today, we are pleased to feature Silicon Valley's Magnificent Four, the myths and legends, also known as the most connected professionals in the industry today. They each approach relationships so differently, really punctuating the point that there's no right or wrong way. But the bottom line is, genuine relationships always pay off. So let's hear from the gurus on how they've mastered just that. So let's jump right in. So question number 1, in a few sentences, please tell me who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you for having us here. My name is Nitin Kumar. I am the Chief Executive Officer of a Silicon Valley company called APPNOMIC. It's an artificial intelligence-based performance software. And prior to this, I'm a former management consulting partner.
I can go next. This is RAHUL PURI. I'm with Oracle NetSuite. I lead our Oracle NetSuite's private equity venture capital practice. The main focus of ours is to work with sponsors, private equity venture capital firms to help kind of drive some of the technology value creation across their portfolios. People don't know, hopefully everybody knows, NetSuite is a big cloud business software company on a global basis. And before there's ADP and Big Four Consulting.
And this is Larryi Ding, and glad to be here again. And I'm currently the CEO of ABLELIFE, which is a healthcare startup working on solutions to disinfect anything that is pathogen related, whether it's a bacteria or virus, which is sort of something to be very needed right now, and we're mid of working on that, right? And in parallel, given my background in technology, I'm also sitting on the board and advisory board of quite a few startups in IoT and AI and machine learning space. And before this, I was working for AT&T, Lucent, Booz Allen, for years, in different areas, including supply chain, sales and marketing, as well as strategy. Glad to be here.
Thank you. All right, Sunil, wrap us up.
Sure. Thanks, Stacy, for having us today. So I'm Sunil KURKURE. I'm an investor and managing director at Untitled Capital, focused on enterprise software and cybersecurity investments. I've been investing for almost 16 years. Prior to Untitled Capital, I was at 2 funds on Sand Hill Road. I've been in the financial or venture ecosystem for almost 2 decades.
Great. Well, I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to say today about relationships, and more importantly, how to build them through your unique styles and your unique approaches. So Larry, maybe kick off with us. How have you built your extensive network into what it is today?
I would say I'm usually not considered to be an active networker in a way, right? So I tend just to really work hard with people that I meet or work with, right? And I think the secret is that if you start something meaningful one at a time, over no time you actually see you start to have a very, very vast and powerful network, right? So I'm a believer of building the cornerstone and expand. But I think the key to networking, in my view, is reputation and also care about people, because your reputation matters if you do good work. And being a genuine person, that's become sort of word of mouth, and people start to know about you, and they want to work with you, and you demonstrate your capability, and then more people can be added to a network, and over time, right? It's become the power exponential, where you literally become known to thousands or even more people with your capability and reputation. I think that's the key. That's actually how I got a lot of those startup jobs and functions today, just through networking as well as reputation.
Reputation. What about you, Sunil? What do you think about that? How have you built your extensive network into what it is today?
Yeah, so I've always found that, investing time in getting to know folks by understanding what they do, and then providing help, right? So what I've always tried to do is whenever I meet somebody new, regardless of what industry they're in or what function their role is at, I'm always looking to see where, through my relationships, as well as through my own skill sets and knowledge, where I can add value to them, personally or professionally. And I found that, taking that interest allows people to get to know you at a level that's, more personal than just being in a professional setting. And I've been able to build kind of, I would say, deep, long-lasting relationships across the sectors, in the ecosystem.
I love that. So it's kind of the idea of be interested before you can become interesting.
Correct. That's right.
Nitin, how about you? How have you built your extensive network into what it is today?
For me, various things came together, right? And I've switched my career from being a cybersecurity expert executive into management consulting into the startup world, different ways. So I always figured out that I'm complete opposite of what Larry does. It's one at a time. For me, it's always the big bang, and it kind of filters down. And what I found is that I have many networks. There's the media, there's the academia, corporate, private equity, governments. And I started to orchestrate the network and become the glue and be that architect of the value exchange. Having said that, I completely agree with what Larry said and what Sunil said. You have to be interested, be interesting, exchange value with the network. I also believe that network can teach you a lot of things at a much quicker pace than you can individually do at a time, right? And yes, it's the strength of the network, not number of people that you know. So for me, it was more becoming the center of gravity of various networks and being that orchestrator, and then it just grew exponentially at a certain point in time.
I'm hearing a lot of givers gain come in here as well with you guys, that you're really giving of yourselves first before asking for something back from the network in some way. Rahul, what about you?
Tough to go after Nitin, but
I know,
since he's so broad in his ways of thinking. But I think to just maybe echo everything, but I think the key piece for me, it's not built, as I said, Rome has not been overnight or whatever, but time, energy, and patience has taken a little bit of, that's a big focal point of kind of building an extensive network, I think. And that comes with, again, paths that Larry and Sunil mentioned specifically. And, I learned this a bit later in life, but, not measuring what you're getting and not kind of measuring the one-to-one give to get is the most critical piece. Because a lot of people are kind of going thinking, hey, I'm going to build this network, and maybe not as distinctly, but saying, hey, I'm going to go build this, but I helped him. Is he or she helping me back? So I think that is the mentality which I learned later in life, but that's definitely helped me quite a bit in kind of building that piece out. But getting out there, being in front of as many people, whether it's conferences, one-on-one reach outs, has been, I've been fortunate to kind of build that out quite a bit.
Sunil, what are the benefits of having a robust professional network? Have you found that's helped you out, professionally and or personally?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's multiple ways that your network helps you, right? It could be, one could be you're just trying to learn a new space and you want to go reach out to a network of folks who are there to help you and guide you in that space. Another way is, you're trying to get a better understanding of something you're already working on, and you want to talk to people who are even closer to the space that you're working on, and you want to learn from them. The third area that I found most helpful in the three of my colleagues here on the call, and value their relationships with me, which is, whenever you have challenges in life, personal or professional, and you need some advice of people who've been there and done that, and who may have expertise or connections that can guide you through those challenges. So I found the network that I continue to evolve and build kind of shapes my thinking and allows me to kind of take risks, as well as enjoy some of the benefits of taking those risks and the company that I keep.
Love that. Larry, what about you? Has building have there been any benefits that you've seen, either tangible or intangible, to having a robust network?
Oh, definitely. There's no doubt about that, right? So I think the one to measure whether or not you have a robust network is that every time you have a new challenge, right? Every time you have you enter into a new territory that you don't know, you just think about it that, hey, who can I go and talk to, or who can I go and talk to who may know somebody who have the answer, right? So that really shows how robust your network is. And I think the nowadays, things changing so fast, right? In order to make a right decision, you definitely need your own analysis, and you definitely need input from different people who have different background and having different experience. So I think in many cases, in my view, way is that I don't mind every time in understanding that, admit that you don't have all the information, you need some industry input. I would just don't hesitate, but just go and grab a phone and send an email, text, Nitin and all the folks here and a bunch of others that I know well, right? I can always know that there's somebody who can rely on, who can actually give me the answer or point me to somebody who can help me out. I think this really helps. It helped me tremendously, repeatedly throughout my career. And that's why I so much value about the network people that I'm surrounded with.
Have you guys ever heard the phrase, we are the combination of the 5 people we spend the most time with? Right, the idea that, you're the network and the people, whether it's the books, the classes, the people that you surround yourself with greatly, impress, upon who you are. I love how you guys are talking about this whole learning and development from others, because it really suggests too that in order to become successful, you guys have had to, find your humility in things that you don't know. So you've had to reach out to your network to learn that, and to be courageous enough to actually show that vulnerability and with your network to say, here's things I want to learn and get to know better. I'm curious, can you tell us more about your own unique style of networking, Nitin? I mean, like what has been your approach to all of this?
So I'm generally not looking for growing my network at this stage, but as the last 20 years have evolved, right? It's really about adding value and looking at the network more as a living thing. As Sunil once told me, that you have to continuously nurture it, otherwise it's just going to die, right? That's so true.
Yeah.
And again, look at network as 2 ways, right? One is that it's a fantastic mechanism of amplifying your brand. And it's also a fantastic mechanism of giving value and exchanging value. And I always believe that it doesn't come in from one network, because the more homogeneous you are, the more of the same that you hear. So you just look at the same problem and try to test it with different people. And I was fascinated with it. And sometimes you can't be in all the networks. So I consciously started to sort of diversify myself and start to look at the same problem through network A lens, B lens, C lens. And it was very interesting to what I found out on how people think. And I'm still very intrigued by how people think more than what they can do for me or I can do for them. So in the later stages of my career, the size of the network and the strength was more of a byproduct out of intellectual curiosity. But then you reach a point where you can exchange value. And I just happen to be the center of gravity of that network and kind of enjoy looking at this information and how it propagates between different parts of the world.
Rahul, how about you? What about your unique style of networking? How do you add, manage, grow your network?
And I think Nitin kind of mentioned some of this piece, but for me, what I have done, especially in the last probably decade or so, is more around not just, hey, okay, if I'm working in the private equity venture capital space, so I have a metric that every month I at least try to network and meet with 2 people who are not in that specific space, because that becomes very consistent and homogeneous, as Nitin mentioned. So I'm open to and still reaching out to as many people. I'll still go to conferences, I'll still do one-on-one reach outs, and I'll find ways and means. But for me, it's important that the people I'm building these relationships with come from very diverse background. And that's been, I think, really important in kind of building my piece. And I think, I do a lot of it is a bit of work, which is great. What I mean by that is there's a lot of homework that goes in beforehand. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to just land up with this meeting and just talk to this person and we'll have a relationship, right? There's a lot of homework that kind of goes in understanding, because at the end of the day, I want to see from their perspective, what is he or she looking for where I can help them. I'm not looking at lens where they can help me, right? And I think that has served me well from a trust perspective, from being a genuine perspective throughout my career. And now I think earlier, yes, to get into that thinking zone takes a bit of time, but now it's kind of second nature to me when I go in, and that's what I kind of think about. Hey, what is Nitin or Larry or Sunil or whoever else I'm meeting, what are they thinking about and where I can help? So I think And then putting that with different lenses coming from different backgrounds has definitely helped quite a bit.
I love that. I can only imagine the different ways you get to look at this. I mean, I love the way you say that, Nitin, thinking about the same problem through a different lens. It's almost like you're holding up the prism and watching the light shine through it in different ways, and see it materialize. So I'm curious, I'm going to ask each of you this kind of final question as we bring it home, and maybe you could take 30 seconds each to answer this, but what would be your piece of advice about networking and relationship development for other people? For the audience who's listening right now, like, how would you summarize that? Nitin?
So I think you need to really think about what Rahul, Sunil, Larry, all of them said, right? And everything you need to give before you get. The more you provide value, the more automatically it comes back to you. You don't have to put in a lot of effort for that, right? You think about people, they think about you. I'll just add one more thing, right? As I had read in one of those books, if you're going to go fast, go alone. If you're going to go far, go with others.
Oh, wow, that was a mic drop. It is hard to follow him. Sorry, gentlemen. Sunil, how about you?
Yeah, it is hard. That was a good one, Nitin. I would say, look, it really starts with communication. I found, the best piece of advice I can give is really be responsive. And it's very simple advice, but be responsive. A lot of people, we're all busy. If you really want to build, long-term relationships with a broader set of folks in your network, being responsive, caring enough to value their time, and understanding, that the reason they're reaching out to you or you're reaching out to them, for example, is, it's because you care enough to get their perspective. And it's much more about give and get. It's really about trying to learn from, to Nitin's point, how someone thinks and kind of shape your thinking based on a myriad of responses through your network. So be responsive would be my big advice.
Rahul.
Obviously, they both cover most of the points, but as part of my team and people I work with, also very early stage in their careers, and they've got 2, 3, 4, 5 years of work experience, especially some of the people I work with, and they've always kind of asked me that question. And a lot of them say, "Oh, I've got, let's say LinkedIn, right? I've got 2,000 connections here, or 5,000 connections." Then my always point to them is, "Hey, don't do." I think we mentioned this. Like for me personally, I will only have a connection with a person if somebody wants to measure the LinkedIn lens or whatever else, is have I met them, have I talked to them, have an interaction with them, right? A lot of people say, let me just go build that out. So I think the genuine piece, the personal piece, it takes time. And I think I would tell everyone, if you are going to think about metrics, that's important. For somebody, metrics is important. Make sure there's a meaningful connection there, not just, hey, let me add somebody and then I will get back to them whenever. So, and I think when we started the core conversation, you can have a broad network, but you need to spend a lot of time kind of building it from a depth perspective.
Amazing. All right, Larry, bring us home, friend.
Well, it's hard to be the last one, right? Because they have taken all the good stuff. By the way, I agree with everything they said, right? I just one more thing to add, right? Especially given that the fact that I have been working for large corporations, become larger and larger over time, now running a few startups, right? I think make sure that it's about your network, right? If people want to connect with you, it's because of you. It's because because you can make them successful instead of your company, right? So when on the day when you leave a large corporation, right, and you go back to people and say, hey, let's talk. If people are still willing to talk to you, right, even though you no longer carry that T-shirt or that hat, it means those are your real network. Those are your supporter, not because of your company. So far, I think 80% of people that I've been working with, when I go back to them and talk about ideas and ask for help, they still respond. I think that's a very good record. Just keep in mind, it's about you, not about what company you work for.
Well, you guys just knocked it out of the park today. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing your ideas and your insights, and by far my biggest takeaway is that, all roads lead to the same place in terms of genuine relationships, that there's no right or wrong, but the goal is to create the authentic, genuine relationship, right? That at the end of the day, that it's person connecting with a person. Forget about the business, forget about, what you're trying to get or give, but, two humans connecting, and you'll move mountains. That's kind of what I'm hearing from our conversation today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have in the description for folks to be able to reach out to you and connect. I'm sure that they can connect out and meet you probably on LinkedIn or your websites. So I'll have you guys share that information with me, and I'll be sure to put that on there. But in the meantime, this is Stacy McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast. For more ideas and insights, please do go check us out at www.concilioteam.com. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.